wanted to ride. I tell all my legends and started to glow. And that's how I'm a driver. So they all touch me when I'm on the road. But I'm gonna roll like a dice on the flow. My advice to you, don't try to get smoke. Watch me go flip like a bang, bro. I'ma go flip like a bang, bro. Moving so fast cause I ain't slow. Picking them up like a Django. I'm telling you, I'm really past insane mode. And I gotta working on my brain, though. Don't tell her how far I'll go, so they better lie low. Mind racing, I'm crazy, I'm just a psycho. No, tell her how far I'll go, so they better lie low. Mind racing, I'm crazy, I'm just a psycho. I'm litty, they numbers do not match the standards. So I'm from a gritty on China's. T'Challa, I'm really a panther. I don't want your pity, I'm ready, let's get it. I'm about to make this shit an anthem. Let me for the body like, let's go. You lanes really got me upset though. T-Rex such a nigga with snatch, yo. I want all the smoke like petrol. Gas to the max on day, whoa. Bad she get trash on set, bro. Psycho, they call me your idol. Won't watch you do that slow, I'ma answer to the bio. Tell her how far I'll go, so they better lie low. Mind racing, I'm crazy, I'm just a psycho. No, tell her how far I'll go, so they better lie low. Mind racing, I'm crazy, I'm just a psycho.
Waste your time, lingering, pondering, save your space and wine. You are not a tree, just move if you don't like where you are, where you are, where you are. Every time I think about all the things I live without, motivates me, it's a do or die. Fear, no fear, it's worth a try. I lost people over pet, I don't regret it, and every time I think about it, all the time my heart forgives. I have given everything, but it's not enough. Fear, no fear, my heart can't stop. 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 Gives you a meaning to erase your every morning. Just open up your eyes and you'll see that there's a meaning to the love-hate relationship. To the haters that wants that great. I can't hide from my fears no more. I can't hide from my fears no more. I lost people over petty shit. Every time I think about it, all the time my heart forgives. your words away. Do not waste your time. Lingering, pondering, save your space and wine. You are not a tree, just move if you don't like where you are, where you are, where you are. Every time I think about all the things I live without, motivates me, it's a do or die. Fear, no fear, it's worth a try. I lost people over pet, but I don't regret it. And every time I think about it, all the time my heart forgives. I have given everything, but it's not enough. Fear, no fear, my heart can't stop. No fear, my heart can't stop. No fear, my heart can't stop. No fear, my heart can't stop.
You were like a ransom note. If I give in, will you come home? I put everything I had into getting you back. I was only 17, and you were the air.
We are back for the Belong Arena Clash League of Legends Spring Split. My name is Stanley Greyheart Barker, once again joined by the magnificent Stuart Sin McLeod.
And it's great to be back, and you know, I got to say, Stan, I missed you. I missed being here, especially at our new desk, our new stage that we're performing this on. I'm loving this.
Oh, it's so fancy.
We've seen some snazzy segments earlier in the week here, and I'm happy to be back on this stage. But back on this stage as well is every single one of our 19 teams that is going to be competing in this spring 2020 season of Arena Clash. And we've got two matches, 4 teams to bring to you tonight from that, and it's going to be from Group A. We're excited to show you how these teams clash up against each other later on tonight.
Yeah, we're very excited for that. We're going to be bringing you those 4 teams. But before we get to that, you know, you were alluding to how much you were missing Belong Arena Clash.
And I just missed you.
Oh, man, and I've missed you. And you know what? I'm missing something else in my life at the minute, and that's I haven't got any kind of Valentine's date for tomorrow. So, Sin, would you be my Valentine?
Oh my! This is so sudden.
It's yeah. I mean, what can I say? You know, there's a lot of love and you know,
Stan.
a very personalised message. So,
Okay, I know you guys can see this. It's got Mao crossed out and then Sin written next to it.
is that a yes?
I'll be a fullback. It's okay. I'll take it. It's better than nothing.
It is. Well, don't you tell me. So we are back. We are good to go, and we are so excited to be bringing you some absolute fantastic action. As we've already said, let's have a little look at what we are going to be seeing later tonight. Yep, well, look at the Group A, Group 1, which is going to be having 4 of the teams who we're looking at tonight. Lionhearts, they've got a little rest, but we're going to get to see the Spartans up in action against the Pirates, but not before we see the Vikings against the Spectres.
It is going to be Lionhearts with a bye week, as you alluded to. So Pirates versus Spartans is an interesting matchup. We know that the Spartans barely eked out the Pirates from making playoffs in that last season. So there's a little bit of a grudge match there. Pirates with a new and improved roster, maybe looking to make revenge. And York Vikings, who we've only seen for one season so far, up against the new Sutton Spectres. So be interested to see how those two teams look to face off tonight in their Sutton Spectres debut in the League of Legends Arena Clash.
Let's roll through the other groups, have a little look who's going to be competing this split, trying to get themselves a place on the Insomnia esports stage. As we get towards the final roundabout Easter, we've got the Steelers, the Harriers, the Enigmas, Rams and Saints comprising Group 2.
And the Harriers, they did have a really solid performance last season, but weren't quite able to execute when it came to the playoffs. Same can be said for the Steelers, who unfortunately disappointed in the finals, still looking reinvigorated, wanting to perform. They have a strong drive, and if they top this group, they're looking a shoe-in to that sort of top 4 echelon that we saw last split.
Yeah, definitely going to be looking, I'd say, for minimum semi-finals, but obviously no one wants to fall short of getting to Insomnia. Looking into Group 3, we are going to be seeing that we've got the Nighthawks, Centurions, my boys, the Bristol Smugglers, the Leviathans, and of course the Invincibles.
And I got to say, the Bristol Smugglers seem to have pulled themselves a group of life here, where the Smugglers previously had looked a little on the weak side. They have now got an upgraded roster. I believe they've taken some of the Brawlers members into their arena, and they're looking a lot stronger. And this group does seem a lot easier than the one they were in last season, so hopefully they can perform, they can get up to the top of that group and live up to the success of their Bristol counterparts, the Brawlers from last split.
I look forward to finally being able to wear that shirt with pride as we cast them. Speaking of wearing shirts, you've got one for the Claymores, and they are in Group number 4 alongside the Guardians, the Hunters and the Bears.
And the Guardians were a strong contender the last couple of seasons, but again, when we saw them in playoffs, weren't quite able to execute. But the Claymores massively upset last season after they came in with their championship-winning roster from a couple of seasons before. We expected more from them, but unfortunately, they did just let us down when it came to those final games against, I believe it was, the Kingston Harriers.
Those are our 4 groups. Check back week to week to find out how the various teams are progressing. But as we've said, for today, we are only going to be looking at Group number 1 and our first featured matchup. You see it either side of me. We have got those awesome visuals saying that the Sutton Spectres will be taking on the York Vikings. What are your feelings going into this game?
So I'm not really sure what to expect from both of these teams because the York Vikings, we didn't really see much of them last split. Kind of underwhelming performance, you could say. But the Sutton Spectres, completely brand new. When we look into some of these teams, we do expect, especially on the York Vikings, that sort of mid-jungle duo to be their strong point, if we're just looking in ELO perspective. And on the other side, it's definitely towards that more bot side of the map, the bot laner and the support that are their strong side for the Sutton Spectres. So I'm looking forward to seeing if York's mid-jungle duo can impact the rest of the map, because we've seen so much of the meta recently be dictated by how much you can snowball your AD carry ahead by winning mid-jungle, by winning top jungle, transferring those leads elsewhere.
You talked earlier about how my boys, the Smugglers, they've almost got that group of life, that whereas we look at Group 1, it kind of feels a bit like a group of death right now. And the York Vikings and, of course, the Sutton Spectres, they're kind of looking at it and going, if they get anything out of this group, they're going to have done very, very well, because you've got defending champions, the Lionhearts, 5-time champions, the Pirates, and a pretty solid Spartans lineup as well. I'm not saying there's no chance for these two teams. Of course not. They are out to go and make those upsets to prove us wrong. But my word, that's a tough old group.
They've definitely got a mountain to climb if they do want to make it up to those that sort of top top 3 even. And these are just the bottom 2 teams in our perspective if we're looking at our predictions so far. So we hope that these 2 teams can show us something here, something strong in their first match to then take forward into the matchups against teams, like we say, like the Portsmouth Pirates, and like the Stratford Spartans.
You're always going to have a chance against the Pirates because, as we're going to find out later on, they have got a shaky old jungler.
Oh, they do indeed. As we're going to be seeing Harry Dr. Evans enter the jungle.
Yep, but enough about him. He'll have his time to shine, or otherwise, as it probably more likely will be. Here are the lineups we are looking at for this game. The York Vikings will have I Can't Kite, Deborah, Lilligant, Rakitoso, Cobra Jeebus, and Kazadone. And
we've got some amazing names here on the Sutton Spectres. You've got Fear Beyond Death. We assume Urgot play in there. Bread in a Can, Cobra, Childish Brandino, Divisius, and Talent Ape.
All right, those are the lineups for this game. We're going to be bringing you into the Champ Select just as soon as we can. We are going to be dealing with a slightly unusual setup in that we're having to go through the pro draft system, which means that unfortunately we won't get to see things necessarily in the order they were picked and banned, which is a little bit of a shame because it's nice to see the back and forwards, that little dance that we get in Champ Select.
I mean, it's really good to try and get inside people's heads when you do end up looking at the drafts, but at the same time, it's kind of difficult to really understand why some of the decisions are made when you look at 2 new teams that are completely new in their entirety. Because you see a bunch of target bans just from solo queue. You see, oh, this guy's played 4 games of Brand in his last 4 games, we'll just ban that against him. Or even just a guy named Childish Brandino. You don't even see Brand, and you just go, let's just ban it just in case we don't know. So a lot of odd choices tend to be made early in the season. It's those later parts of the season where we really see some really interesting moments in pick and ban where a lot of teams are trying to outplay each other completely. And we saw that a lot in the finals, where Teesside really struggled in draft against the London Lionhearts, who had worked them out.
Taking you back there to your reference about Childish Brandino, I've got a question for you, and it was something that I never actually properly got round to asking you last split, though it was very much on my mind. Last time round, we had Boyaka Soraka, we had I Throw, Club Tag Axes.
Yeah.
We had a Soraka player, we had a Draven player. Very, very clearly, they loved to play those champions, and they started to get banned out from them, perhaps even more than they would have done if they'd just been playing them well regularly, because they're in their name, so they become that much of a signature. Is it potentially a risky move, a bit of a mistake almost, to actually put something into your name? Because it basically says, hey, go and ban this, if you really want to play
I mean, there was a few of those. There was a Twitch club tag player. There was an Ashe player who had Ashe as their club tag as well. It definitely is a bit risky, but at the same time, having one ban away from you at all times does generally help you at those higher levels of pick and ban. If you look towards the lower levels, when you take somebody's only champion, suddenly they're left stranded. But if you're a good enough player, you've got other things you can fall back on, and your team's just been given priority on another champion just as well.
All right, well, we are into pick and ban for the first game of this split, and I have heard in my ear from our wonderful producer that we are not in Pro Draft, so we are getting to see things as they transpire live in person in this Champ Select. We see Senna and Set, 2 of our most recent champions, already taken off the board, along with a LeBlanc, a Lee Sin, and a Braum.
So the LeBlanc ban is generally afraid of a third pick red side LeBlanc, where you just get to pick LeBlanc blind and ban 2, or pick LeBlanc into an early mid lane pick. So I'd assume that is what they're looking for here, an early rotation mid laner. They're going to put high priority on that. We see Elise and Lee Sin both banned away, which generally means that you fall back on the Gragas and the Olaf right now. We have seen some whispers of some Echo. We've seen some other champions rising up, and I don't want to talk about Darius in the jungle. That's not yet, and I hope I don't see
Garen
it.
coming to a jungle near you soon.
I'm looking forward to seeing it, because they said they're doing a second round of that. If they bring in Lucian, I've always loved Lucian jungle, and I want to see him definitely buffed up.
I played a little bit of that last season. Meanwhile, we're going to be seeing the Ornn locked in first for the York Vikings, securing themselves the Forge God in the top lane. In response, we see Aphelios and Pyke locked in for the bot lane of the Sutton Spectres.
So Ornn definitely the best blue side first pick in the game right now. It's so safe, it's so easy to pick, and there's so many drafts in which Ornn fits in perfectly. Whereas you look over the other side, you see Aphelios and Pyke's the first 2 look-ins. That's a lot more aggressive. Aphelios wants to try and dominate lane, and Pyke is going to enable him to do that. But when you've got a Varus Thresh on the other side, that's great into Pyke, that's great into Aphelios. You get the Q to push the wave, and this is what I've wanted to see for a while. We've seen Aphelios Senna Misfortune every single game. When you go for the Varus into it, Varus is so good. He's got long range engage, he's got long range wave clear, he's so safe, he just provides everything you need for a team comp.
I mean, in our top tiers, looking at LCK, LEC, LCS not really top tier, but they try. We have been looking, and we were talking about this earlier, sort of 4 main ADCs, of which 1 was banned, 1 was picked away. You then maybe expect the response to Misfortune, or as you were saying earlier on, the Xayah. Instead, that Varus comes in. I have to say, I like the pick, but it doesn't feel quite as powerful in comparison to that Aphelios.
Varus is the one I wish was 4th place in that list, but Xayah has so much more of a priority in competitive play because of the interactions with Rakan. And the innate safety of having those the Featherstorm. But looking towards the bans here, this is a really interesting one. We're seeing even more jungle bans because neither team has opted into picking an early jungler, but nobody focusing out. We see the Rek'Sai at least, the Gragas as we said, and the Olaf, 2 of the highest priority ones, even a Xin Zhao. So I do expect those to just be the junglers that do show up now.
There's a lot of Bruce has been taken away. The Lee Sin, the Xin, as you've just referenced, the Rek'Sai, and obviously Kha'Zix in his assassin form, all taken away from the champ pool. You've got to expect to see a jungler locked in now, so the mid laner can be counterpicked later on for the Sutton Spectres.
I really want to just see Deborah just go, okay, I'm just going to play Ornn mid. We'll play into the Gnar and just pick like a Kennen or pick something that can try and bully the Gnar in lane. And especially if they do get an aggressive jungler into it, as the Jarvan is picked, another one of those top echelon of junglers because of his tankiness. I'd like to see them try and threaten this Gnar. Don't just let him have a free lane against the Ornn, because Ornn does show up in team fights, but if Gnar's garnered enough of an advantage through the early game, that is where he shines.
Speaking of early game, that is the Olaf lock-in for the York Vikings, going against the king of the jungle himself. Jarvan is going to be played. Here it comes. It's a rumble, and I can see the excitement growing on your face. Sin, talk to us about this one.
I adore Rumble mid. I adore Rumble top lane, Rumble jungle. This is one of my most played champions. Evelynn is the only champion that is more than Rumble I have ever played. But he is so good into so many matchups, and we're assuming that this is actually a Jax top Gnar mid? I'm not sure where they're going here.
Jax mid would be my guess.
Jax mid. But this is a really interesting situation now because you've got 2 flexible, basically top laners on the side of the Sutton Spectres, and the same on the York Vikings. So they can just role swap as and when in the game.
It's just like
an
increasingly blank expression as I look at the swaps being made by the Spectres. We've got 30
are they doing this?
seconds left, and right now we are looking at a potential Gnar top, Jax jungle, Pyke mid, a Fellas ADC, of course, and Jarvan support. It could still change.
Jarvan's Jarvan support is this. We're seeing the Spirit Special, the AP Jarvan support that we did see last year in Korea, only played by the Afrika Freaks. No one else played it. You go summon Airy. You go summon Airy, you go for the AP support item, and you just go full support items in the early game, and that is a jump.
Oh, let's go!
I'm loving this. Okay, so they've got a comp that works really well as like a wombo combo. You've got the Gnar to slam people into the walls. You've got Pyke, who can follow up so well on engages. Jarvan, of course, has the Cataclysm. And there's all these AoE stuns that they've got in this composition. So if they do start to find those picks, if they do start to roam around the map and make these picks happen, this game can be blown wide open.
Sutton Spectres, this is their first game of League of Legends in the Belong Arena Clash.
I'm loving it.
And they've already made a fan out of me. Oh my word, that just happened. We are about to get to see a Jarvan as long as there aren't any shenanigans or mistakes or remakes. This is just happening.
The moment I saw that Jarvan with Ignite, I was just like, it's Jarvan support. And oh no, it's Pyke mid.
Woohoo! We got a game on our hands. How do you analyse this one, Sid? Tell me what happens to this comp.
This is a comp that is really high roll. You have to either snowball hard off of the early game, or you are going to fall apart because you've got the Ornn, who gives the ornaments to those champions as you get later into the games. So you get the upgraded items. 1k free gold every single time kind of negates a lot of the early game benefits that come from playing a comp like the Sutton Spectres. You've got Rumble, who is so good in those later game team fights as well. Olaf, and you've just got all these members that thrive in multi-man AoE team fights. And so I'm expecting the Varus plus Ornn combo to be very utilized come the mid game, and it's if they can do enough once they hit that sort of level 9 mark to neutralize the early game pressure of the likes of the Pyke and the roaming Jarvan support as well. Otherwise, I don't see Sutton outscaling.
I agree, but they do still have late game power. They've still got a Jax, they've still got an Aphelios.
It's Jack's jungle.
It's not going to get to its impactful
think
phase.
about how long. Like we both play jungle.
Yes.
We can't pretend for a second that jungle scales well right now.
Oh,
jungle,
God, yeah.
you go tank.
Yeah, and never
or
mind.
you
He's going
lose
to be
the
level
game.
10 at 50 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay. Never mind.
You're going to see everybody else in the game is going to be level 16, and Jax will be sitting there about level 13, unable to 1v1 anybody in the game. There's no Spirit Shojin anymore as well, meaning Jax is even weaker come those later stages. So I don't expect him to have much of an impact beyond the mid game, where that AoE stun is going to be most prevalent. And he's got about 1.5 items.
Yeah, you've got a very valid point there. I'm not going to lie, not happy about the state of jungle XP right now. It's quite a frustrating
It's a little
one.
bit better. I mean, I like to play Kindred because I get to just farm my laner's XP and then not care. Because you just level up enough anyway.
I'll give you that one. We saw an interesting one in LCK this morning. Don't know if you caught it.
The Diana jungle? Or?
The funnel strap for Lee Sin.
I did not notice that.
Oh, did you not hear about
no.
this? I've forgotten which team it was, but it was... I'll get this right. Tryndamere top lane.
Oh, yeah.
Lee Sin jungle, Karma mid, and then Soraka, Shen in the bot lane.
Yeah.
And they just funneled the Jarvan, the Lee Sin, and they lost.
That comp could have worked. I actually did see that draft. That comp would have worked if they just had Karthus jungle. You put Karthus in that jungle, suddenly sense, you've got a scaling threat. You don't just have the Lee Sin that falls
or even
off so
something
hard.
ridiculous like a Yeve. And,
but the main issue with that game didn't come from the fact that they weren't playing Karthus. It came from the fact that Soraka died 3 times in lane.
Yeah.
When it's Soraka Shen bot lane that should be insanely safe.
It should, yeah. I mean, at some point, it's entirely possible over the course of our remaining, because we've got 2 best of 3s today. It's entirely possible that we do see this irritating little fella over here.
I actually love that.
This is specifically one because Soraka is the bane of my existence right now.
It's the
Soraka
Soraka
top
this is
lane
fine emote,
support.
yeah.
You can even see it in mid. Like, when are they going to just balance this out and
next
get it right?
patch she's getting gutted.
A real shame.
Yeah, so she's only going to be relevant in the support role as the aim after next patch, because it was a Rioter actually came out and said, yeah, there's an issue now, we have to gut Soraka because she's the best top laner in the game. And this was 1 game after she'd surfaced in EU.
Yep.
They'd already decided, okay, it's done, it's over, we cannot have this, it is too much.
And it was partly because it was showing so much in solo queue. I mean, let's not pretend it was the LEC people who brought it out first. It started to become a bit of a trend. They showed in the scene it still works in top level competitive as well.
It will start as a trend in solo queue, and the moment it hits competitive play, then everyone's doing it. So that's really the break point, because solo queue you can have like funnel strats, for example. Funnel strats were utilized a decent amount. Because you saw people like Kerberos in solo queue I believe he invented the Lulu Yi combo with one of his fellow Warwick
We had a lot of fun
University
casting that
members.
one back in the day, yeah.
I believe he invented the Lulu Yi, where you have a Lulu top just sack everything. It was Lulu top at that point as well.
Yep.
And then that kind of developed into Tarik Yi. It developed into a bunch of other different combinations, like Bravado, who's now, I believe, a sub for Schalke 04's academy team, invented the Tarik Yi. And the moment it hit LEC, though, everyone was trying it. We saw Lucian Rakan, I believe, was one combo we even saw. We saw the Zyra Rakan, obviously. Braum plus anything, Sejuani plus anything. There were so many.
That was roughly the same time when
hardcore funnel
Yankel started
combos.
crying. It was
Yeah, did you see his plea recently?
About Sejuani.
Please don't buff Sejuani.
Yeah.
She's in a good spot right
Unlucky
now.
it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, well, it already happened. They gave her the 10%
yes.
attack speed at level 1, which is really funny because instinctively I just went, do you know what would be really funny now? If you went Conqueror on Sejuani and you gave yourself attack speed runes and you already get the 10% attack speed and your early game trading is actually nuts.
Oh, well, anyway, fortunately, like I was saying, we don't have
Yeah.
a Soraka in this game, though I do expect to see it at some point, or at the very least banned out later on. One of the other things that we don't have, our latest champion coming into the game, Set.
Yes.
You should be very, very glad, and I know that out there somewhere Martin is watching this, feeling very, very glad that we don't have Set, because I've told him that I've compiled a whole list of jokes, all puns ready for Set. That's right, I've got a Set list.
Oh god, this is painful. You know what? Listening to these, it's like when you've stepped on a Lego and you're just trying not to scream out. It's just kind of like
It's all right. I've only written another 30 of them, so let's see if Set gets picked later on.
Okay, but to talk about Set a minute.
Sure, let's.
Set is a champion that's been very interesting seeing in the meta, because he is only useful because he has one ability that is very strong, his W.
Yep.
Because it does true damage down the center. I instantly, the first thing I saw this went, what if I just went Cinder Hulk and then Warmogs? How much damage would I do? And by the end of the game, with one AD item, which was a Titanic Hydra, I was doing 1100 true damage down the center of that cone.
It's a little bit much.
Just a little bit much.
And there's a bit of a, big ass shield on it as well.
Yeah, and you get half
by the
your
way,
HP in
and by
shield.
the way, the cooldown is obscene too.
Yes.
It's been changed slightly, but it's not enough.
I don't believe that patch has come
Personal
through yet, but it's 4 seconds in
Yeah.
difference at rank 1, and then 2 seconds in difference at max rank. That is definitely very relevant because it hurts his early game where
Yes.
he was so dominant because he could just spam W
all
on the
time.
wave, every single wave. It was so easy to... Do you know what it reminds me of actually quite a lot? When Old Swain was played, when he used to just every single wave go, I ult, I don't care how much damage I take, I just walk away and I survive. Because not only that, his health regen is obscene. His passive gives him missing health regen, well, a regen per missing health, rather, to the point where when he's at, 100 HP out of the 3000, his health regen is at, 40 per second. And it's absurd how much health he's getting back in that time period.
I agree with you, but here's my thing, and this is my first controversial thought of the year to go on cast. I've had plenty of others that weren't on cast, but that's beyond the point. I don't think it's broken.
The health regen?
No, just Set in general. I actually think they've made a really, really good champ. You've got a champ who essentially you can counterplay by just walking away from. It's not like it's got hundreds of gap closers. Yes,
Yeah.
I do think the W is a bit of a joke,
It's
if we're
overtuned,
honest, and
yeah.
it does need to have a small change. But I think they've created a fairly nice champion that does something unique and interesting.
I do agree
and
with
I like
you.
it.
I do agree with you that I do think he works as a champion, and I don't think he's broken. It's not like when Kiana came out and I said Kiana's, like I said last season, Kiana is the worst champion Riot has ever designed, and her kit doesn't work unless it has absurd numbers.
Or on the other side, a champion like I moan about, which is Pyke, because everything it does is so strong and so good that it's in a crazy place unless it's been nerfed into the ground.
Yeah.
I actually just think Set's a nicely designed champion, and we're not going to be seeing it here. We're not going to see a Soraka. We're going to see a frickin' Jarvan support. Let's go, Sutton Spectres, in your first game against the York Vikings. We are running onto the Rift, and straight away, York are lining up as a 5. They're looking for some shenanigans.
It's great to see shades of some of my favourite players and its spirit in this game, represented by this Jarvan support that we're alluding to, as we see the 5-man stack into top river.
Straight away looking for a potential pick. Thresh is leading, has got the hook, but already that man Rednakan is going to notice what is going on, get himself out of dodge. However, Nar decides he wants to walk straight into this one. He's having to flash away. He's been slowed down by the Harpoon. Deborah looking to try and secure this kill. Fear Beyond Death running for the safety of his turret, but I'm not sure he's going to get there as we see the Ornn Pillar coming on up. Will flash. The first blood goes over to Rumble. Our first kill of the split is going to go over to the mid laner Deborah.
And Rumble with an early lead is pretty terrifying because it means at level 3, he's actually going to have quite a lot of kill pressure in that lane.
Alright, now we do see the rest of the Spectres just line themselves up in their jungle going, oh no, that's not the start we wanted.
Oh, he actually went Doran's Ring there. The moment we see that the First Blood came through, which is going to give him that AP. It's going to give him damage on hit to minions as well, but still holding on to his potion at the same time means he's going to have so much survivability in this lane against Pyke, who is known for his sustain.
Alright, that is going to be the blue buff finally picked up by the Jax. We'll see just how well he does scale into the late game. He's going to get himself that level 2, taking a little while to pick up the level 3. Then we'll be seeing if he can get some ganks going on. Remember, of course, that Deborah... I don't know if Deborah burned the flash. I know that the Ornn did flash forward, so Deborah may be a little safer here against the Pyke in the mid lane.
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit in the bottom lane about this Aerie on the Jarvan, 4th. The reason that Aerie works is you use your E, you can land Aerie on an enemy with it, but the follow-up is that every single time Aerie comes back to you, the attack speed buff that's applied from his E will cause Aerie to shield an ally. So multiple times in a combat you can get 3 Aeries off of one ability. It's so much value, and it just gives him a lot of pressure in the support role when he is played effectively.
We did see Thresh there walking forwards, looking to try and get a potential hook, but no further plays coming into the York Vikings just yet. They've got themselves a little gold lead, and they are CSing themselves up quite nicely early on.
And now, Rumble has actually been traded out pretty effectively by this Pyke. Considering he got first blood, he's not been utilizing that advantage very effectively. He's being just consistently pushed in, consistently threatened by that electrocute from Pyke, and it's just meaning that the effect of the Rumble is completely neutralized until he hits this level 3 like we're seeing, where he can try and go more aggressive.
And that is indeed going to be Deborah going forward, getting good damage down, being pulled back by the Bone Skewer. Here comes the flashing Jackson, just like that, Brendan gets himself a kill, and Sutton Spectres go level on the kill score.
Yeah, the Ignite and the Flash both utilized pretty effective first gank from the Jax, utilized well, and it means that they do end up getting that first pickup for themselves in return. Pyke getting a kill before he hits that level 6 as well is definitely going to help give that sort of level 6 mark even more.
The hook and the flay, they do connect onto Aphelios, but forward goes the Jarvan with that flag and drag. Meanwhile, Jax is back for round 2. Goes forward, has got himself the stun on Deborah, but the reinforcements are here in full force. It is going to be Brednakan who is left out to dry as he tries to juke it out against the Olaf, but that's not happening. Rokitoso calls thunder from the skies and picks up a kill.
And Olaf does his job well, where he shows that he is one of the most effective counter junglers in the game. If you do end up taking one of those 2v2s and he is able to collapse in time, you always end up seeing this. You struggle quite a lot, and really nice flay there from the Thresh.
A nice flay, yes, but a bold flag and drag coming in from Devious, almost losing his life for that one.
A bit overly bold, you would say, definitely. Especially when you're going AP on Jarvan, you don't really have that much damage during the early phases.
And look at the damage coming through from Deborah, who does take a turret shot and didn't even have the shield available on this particular one. Rakitoso throws one of those Mjolnirs out, does not quite manage to contact onto the Sutton Spectres mid laner, and that isn't going to be another kill just yet. But this is such a fast-paced game.
And it's turned back and forth quite a bit already, as we're seeing a 600 gold lead for the York Vikings so far, as they've been winning out in CS in that mid lane, and handily so in that bot lane. This is what I was talking about earlier, though. The Varus, such a strong champion in the laning phase, but also transitions well into the later game when he does do the Gwynsu's build, the full-on hit build, whilst also still having